Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Index the Office Hours. Today is the 21st of November, and this is Index the Office Hours 134. Incredible that we're up to this number here. It's a crazy ride. This is the town square where ecosystem participants come together and discuss the most important and relevant topics for indexes. This is a conversation. We love participation. So at any point in today's conversation, please do feel free to get involved in the conversation by either unmuting your mic or by talking in the chat box in the corner. If you're having any issues unmuting your mic, let me know and I can get that sorted for you. As a reminder, this is a call that is going to be recorded and posted onto public channels like YouTube. So if you're concerned about privacy, please bear that in mind. And with that, let's get into today's agenda. So, as always, I give a shout out to the latest GRT IQ episode, and today is no different. And we have episode 143, and this is actually with a person who's in the call right now. It's with Mickey. I know her as Mickey, but her name is 𝗨𝗂𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗂. And she was featured in the GRT IQ episode. I don't want to put you on the spot, Mickey, so feel free to deny this, but if you want, feel free to say a few words about the episode if you so desire.
Sure, yeah. I had a really fun time. All credit goes to Nick for his hard work making the podcast a success. Yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think. Hopefully it inspires people who have meandering, weird career paths too, since that is what my career path looked like.
Amazing. It's always nice when someone who is a regular IOH is profiled at GRT IQ. So yeah, congratulations on your episode. And as you can see, the link is in the chat, so please do check it out. Thank you for posting the link there, Juan. Alrighty, now I will hand over to Anna for our regularly scheduled repo watch.
Thank you, Abel, and hello, everyone. And just before we do the repo watch, I just want to say I haven't finished the episode yet, but I found your experience in so many fields so wild and interesting, and yeah, just really cool. So congratulations on everything you've been achieving and stuff, Mickey. All right, in repo watch. Starting with execution layer clients, we have only had the new release from Firehose Ethereum. This is version 2.0.0. I won't go through the changes because we've already covered them last week. They're basically the same changes as 2.0.0 RC0. But yeah, this is the stable release for that. And then on Arbitrum Nitro, we have had 2 new alpha releases, so version 2.2.0 alpha 2 and version 2.2.0 alpha 3. They both come with a warning, so I think we should stay away from them. The warning is these releases do not process retriable transactions correctly, and that alpha 4 will fix the issue. So again, new releases on Arbitrum Nitro, but I think because of the warning, we can skip them for now. I don't have anything on consensus layer clients, and I also don't have anything on GraphStack. I personally am waiting for a new release of Indexer service, which comes with Arbitrum Sepolia support. Been working for our Launchpad stack, been working on adding the Arbitrum Sepolia graph stack into namespaces. And since there's no more updates, just want to remind everyone that tomorrow we have a new episode of LOH. Please join us. It's at 5 p.m. UTC. But yeah, double check the events in Graph Protocol Discord to make sure you don't miss it, and come ready with your Kubernetes questions. And with that, I will hand over to Juan.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, getting into Protocol Watch. First of all, we have forum governance as always, GIP 63, which is optimizing query fees sent to indexers. There was a small feedback for the discussion regarding, potentially rebumping curation and the curator incentives. Yeah, it's an interesting discussion for the query fees optimization. Just so that everyone's aware, it's mostly regarding removing the percentages that go to curators so that indexers can get a little bit more out of the query fees. But again, this is just a proposal, so it's open for discussion. And if you want to discuss, it's on the forum thread that's linked in the agenda. Next up, add support for Kava mainnet. There's a new network, and Pedro already mentioned that they are in touch. So if you're interested in new supports for new networks, that's another one that we can always take a look at. For forum research, we don't have any new updates since last IOH. The last time we covered forum research, I think it was the core dev updates, which are also linked in some previous agendas. For the contracts repository, we have a few PRs that are, one is merged and the other one is still open, mostly regarding Sepolia contracts and the subgraph availability manager contract, which is also, I think, the PR is related to the Sepolia deployments. I think for the most part, Sepolia and Arbitrum Sepolia are already working, as far as I'm aware, as the new testnet. And Arbitrum Girly has been deprecated because it no longer works for Arbitrum, so we can't really use it for L1 and L2 stuff. For the network subgraphs, we don't have any new releases, but we are back on track with the FDS refactor, so file data source refactor, which is going to allow us to avoid having an IPFS and a non-IPFS version of the subgraph. So basically, we would be able to go ahead and release the full subgraph into the network. That's pretty much it for Protocol Watch, so I'm going to hand it over to Abel now.
Awesome. And then I'm going to hand it straight to Paca, who's going to take us into our regularly scheduled Project Watch section.
Hey everyone. Cool. Let me get some links ready to share. Still working on making these boards public, but I will kind of share links to an idea of what we're working on. Mix up the order this week. Let's go straight into graphics, which is a tool that we've been working on. So shout out to Vince of many different hats. He's been helping out tremendously testing this tool. And so just want to give him some props. He's here on the call today. So thanks, Vince. But we are looking at ways to improve this tool. So let me just share my screen real fast. Yeah, I have not shared yet. Give me 1 second. Public, but giving you all some alpha sneak peek. The main stuff in progress right now is documenting the GraphQL schema so that we can have enhanced kind of front-end experience. We're going to be leaning into using Grafana because that seems to be a pretty standard tool for indexers. And so just trying to not reinvent the wheel and use things that you all are familiar with. And then secondly, is this issue that Vince kind of pointed out, still kind of narrowing down what the issue is, but potentially an issue with one of the dashboards. And so thank you, Vince, for providing all this feedback. And I'll share a link to this issue for ticks. Yeah. That's basically it for graphics. Let me, if there's anything exciting I can share from GraphNode perspective. I might not share that full board, but I'll definitely share some links. I think something that a few of you are aware of and kind of hyped for is David's work on aggregations. And so this would kind of really enhance the user experience for certain types of kind of data, specifically like time series, and then aggregating over those time series. And so I'm going to share a link to this issue in GraphNode that is well documents the different kind of approaches David has been thinking of. And so I encourage you to take a look at that. Besides that, our team has been working pretty heavily on improving the integration between substreams and GraphNode. And so kind of substreams powered subgraphs. And so excited to release some changes to that this quarter. But besides that, I don't really have much to share in terms of Project Watch, but actually I do. Let me check. It's not so much Project Watch so much as educational resources hyping. So just want to give a final plug for feedback on David's sharding document. He created some docs related to sharding in GraphNode and was just hoping to hear from you all if there's anything else you wanted to get from that, if you need more or if it's plenty. Just any feedback would be appreciated. Secondly, I'm working on getting some Grafana dashboards open source to you all from the hosted service to help with these Sunrise efforts. And I know that's been an ask for a while, is just getting some enhanced Grafana dashboards. So know that that's coming, and I'm going to be working with Leo over the coming weeks to a repo created for you all that we can just and so then eventually we're going to open source all the dashboards. But for now, this is it. Do I know when the new version of Indexer is going to be released? That's a great question, Anna. We don't have an exact date right now, but I would need to talk to Ford about that. He's been doing some work to fix some of the issues that I think that you mentioned earlier, and I can get back with an estimate later once I talk with Ford. I don't think he's on the call right now, but thanks for that question. And then one last thing. Yeah, this is definitely a teaser, but Q1 of next year, I think the first Indexer workshop we're going to host is IPFS node cluster operations to kind of line up with our goal of decentralizing EFS ops soon, TM. Yeah, just wanted to tease that a little bit. Thank you all, and happy to answer any questions.
A few people typing, so we'll see what questions come up. A question for us, which I think makes sense to hand to Anna. So Matthew's asked, do we have any plans to add IPFS into Launchpad?
That hasn't been something we discussed, so not as far as I'm concerned, but let's talk about it tomorrow on an LOH, so the whole team is there and we can discuss in more detail. But yeah, I haven't heard any discussion on IPFS in the Launchpad stack, for at least not for the short term.
Great. Any more questions?
Yeah, what's up with your microphone?
Me? What
Yeah.
is it bad?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Sometimes it doesn't seem too good. Yeah, it feels like it's behind a blanket or something.
What about now?
Oh, holy shit. Nice.
Sorry, I selected the wrong microphone. Thanks for
Move
yeah,
the
I moved the
blanket.
Indeed. And I upped the volume as well. Yeah, if at any point if my microphone is sounds like I'm muffled or I'm under a blanket, please let me know ASAP so I can adjust it, because yeah, I obviously want to sound reasonable in the in the recording. So yeah, thanks Payne, I appreciate that. Yes, that would be hilarious, Packer. And no, I'm not under a blanket doing IOH, although that would be nice. Alrighty. Any final questions on any topics related to stuff that Packer was speaking about in relation to Project Watch, or are we good to move to the next section? Alrighty, I will take that as a no. So I am very excited to announce we have Adam on the call with us today, and he will be guiding us through a world of data services, which is a very interesting proposal and part of the New Era roadmap. I figured it'll be very interesting for us to go into 5 of the sections that were outlined in the New Era roadmap and go one by one. Indeed, Adam for president for sure. He's awesome. Adam will be leading the first session. And so, without further ado, I'll hand it over to Adam. Hey, indeed.
Hey, everyone. So I think this is following up, I think 2 weeks ago, the roadmap was released. I'll drop the link for the sort of interactive live version in the chat. So I think this roadmap was a combination of a lot of work across the foundation. So shout out to Nick from the foundation who did a lot of the work behind the scenes. But then also working with a lot of the core devs to get a sense of what was coming up for the graph. So it's quite hard to fully capture all the stuff that's going on, but this was I think a valiant effort, and I think today we're going to be talking about the world of data services. So this is a term that's been floating around the ecosystem for a while, which I think was originally used by Yanis in a GIP towards the end of last year to talk about introducing new data services into the graph. Into the graph network. So when it comes to new data services, there are really a few components. So one is the data service itself. So for the existing and it's helpful to use the existing data service. So subgraphs as an example. So subgraphs that are obviously in indexing software. That's the data service itself. So Graph Node is obviously software behind it. When it comes to having a data service on the network, there are a few other components. So firstly, there's how the data service exists in the protocol. So that's obviously all the contracts of the graph network, and then there's the sort of off-chain components. So that's the indexer stack. That's the gateway. That's some of the other network components which exist across to essentially power the subgraph data service. So with that in mind, there are a bunch of new exciting data services coming online, and those vary across those dimensions. So I think a few are familiar, and we've been talking about for a while. So that would include FHIOs and substreams, which have obviously been in development by Streamfast for a long time. So making those available in a native way on the network. But then there are some new data services which were announced and I think discussed for the first time last week in Istanbul. So new query language, so SQL. Semiotic have been working on SQL, which is ultimately powered by substreams, but that's a wholly new data service. And then Semiotic also talked about some of their work with large language models and how they're thinking about bringing those to the graph network. In terms of some other aspects of this, there's files. So we know that indexes do a lot of sharing of files, whether that's sort of precinct files or otherwise. And so there's thinking by GraphOps in terms of introducing files as a data service. And then there's some other aspects, whether it's around verifiability, introducing more non-deterministic data sources, but then also continuing the chain integrations for the data services that we currently have, which are sort of included in this world of data services bucket. So, which is all to say, there's a lot here. There's a lot we could talk about. I think I was keenest to direct folks to the roadmap if they hadn't seen it. There's an accompanying blog post. There's also some sort of content. We had a impromptu GRTIQ session to discuss some of the new, like a lot of the different aspects of the roadmap. But mainly wanted to give people an opportunity to ask any questions that they had when they came across it, or if they're coming across it from the first time, any questions they have today. So yeah, essentially wanted to have a bit of an open session.
I see a few people typing, so we'll leave them to ask questions. You've got a question there from Derek.
Yep. So explorations there are sort of covered within other data services. There are a few other things which we're looking into exploring at the moment. So that's the sort of, I guess, other bracket, if that makes sense.
We've got more baby jokes than questions at the moment, but hopefully folks have some more questions.
So I think one thing which has come up, I guess, with an indexer lens, like on the roadmap, particularly the expansion of data services, I think our expectation is kind of that that with the new data services, it'll work relatively similarly to the way that that's Remy. Hello. To the way that new networks work. So while we expect that some indexes might try and support lots of data services, we also expect to see some sort of specialization around new data services. And some data services, as described, like will be things that indexes are running already. So like Firehose and substreams fall into that bucket. But some of the stuff which Semiotic are exploring, for example, involves some new technologies like ClickHouse. And just on the Derek, the question about this SQL implementation. So we've talked about both of those. So both SQL queries to a subgraph database, as well as an independent data source. Semiotics research at the moment is focusing on it as an independent research data source. So that's because they're looking to support the more sort of analytics type queries, so more ad hoc exploratory analysis type queries. And so they've been using ClickHouse. Whereas we have also been looking into like SQL of subgraphs, which would obviously maybe be slightly more limited in terms of like query time, like what you could do at query time. But like overall we see them as slightly different use cases. And to answer the question about he's currently, the dog is chasing him around the room. So we would be leaning towards or rather Semiotic have been looking at a sort of Dune type offering, certainly in terms of the way that you can obviously write custom ad hoc queries. In terms of cross subgraph queries for dashboards, again, that slightly depends whether you're thinking about the subgraph SQL query approach, or if you're talking about the substream to ClickHouse approach, where it's a slightly different paradigm. I think composition is a part of the roadmap, but yes, that's a bit out of scope, like the immediate scope there.
We've got a lot of admiration for your concentration skills, Adam, in the chat.
The dog is the victim in this moment. Yes, and so Derek, currently, I'm not sure if they've made it onto I'm not sure if they've made it onto YouTube yet, but I think Sam's talk from Istanbul, he goes into some of the details. But yes, it is approximately like that. In terms of what would be helpful, like if by these types of things you're talking about the SQL sort of substream to ClickHouse pipeline. I don't know, maybe Matthew Darwin, I think, or maybe someone from StreamFast, are starting to run that stack. And Semiotic are building on top of it. So I guess I don't know if you guys have anything that would be immediately useful for the index community to contribute.
So from Pinac side, we're just like playing around with ClickHouse and trying to understand how all that works and scales and that kind of stuff. So probably at this point, that's, start learning ClickHouse would be my message. I mean, it's pulling substreams data into ClickHouse. So if you understand substreams in ClickHouse, then you probably got most of the solution. But yeah, we can share updates as we go along. I don't know if anybody from Streaming Fast has anything to add here. I know Semiotic and Streaming Fast have been working closely on this solution. Josh, anything to add from your non-technical perspective? The question was anything to add on the Streaming Fast, ClickHouse, Semiotic, deployable unit activity? Okay, maybe we can get Alex or somebody here at some point to explain how all this works.
Yeah, and maybe from Semiotic as well, I think. Maybe that'd be a good session for this group.
Yes, I can work on that. I'll reach out to the relevant people. Any more questions? Keep them coming. We've got a ton of time, so we can keep going.
Tons of other questions. So one on materialization. What gets materialized? What doesn't? I think that's still slightly in the definition phase. I think working out what gets persisted, how that gets communicated, I think is still kind of to be determined. On the reward and ETH network, that's a bit of a different discussion. I don't know if there's a timeline in mind for that at this point. Sure. So on files as a data service, I don't know if anyone from GraphOps wants to talk about how they're thinking about the file data service. Hope.
Hey, Hope, do you have permissions to talk? I think everyone should have. Or do you want to write in chat? I don't mind that either.
I just
Hello?
gave you permission.
Can you hear
Hey,
me?
Yeah.
yes, we can
Yeah.
hear you now.
Okay. What is there any questions about this topic? I'm not sure where to start exactly.
Yeah, I guess just because file storage is kind of vague. I'm just curious, what is what specific types of files or what are we looking at storing and serving, and just trying to get a better idea of what that service would entail.
Okay. So I think the general name is pretty broad. For a file, it could potentially be any type of file. What we're going to start first is flat files. So you can imagine you have a file host that generates a bunch of flat files with maybe Ethereum data without trace. So that's something I think Semiotic has worked on, that they have a tool to verify file host data. And so imagine that you have a bunch of those type of files, and what are the block range, and basically if the node that you're using had what setting the nodes were using to produce a source file, and then so you can supply a set of configurations, say the first million blocks of fat files, and then we have some idea for a publisher, like a sub, like we're calling it subfiles, but I think the names are still we can change it later on. But you can imagine the subfile has a bunch of manifests that is similar to subref manifests. And for each flat files, there should be some sort of verifiability. We're exploring two different options right now. One is to have a list of basically like an ordered list of hashes for chunks of flat file. So we could say if there is a flat file that is 30 megabytes big, and then we can split it into a few different chunks. If the chunk is 1 megabyte big, then 30 chunks, and then so we have 30 hashes in order, and then that is stored somewhere in the manifest for the subfile. And then we publish that on IPFS, and then a client can agree to that. After reading this this manifest, they can also verify that against I guess something on chain. And then they would build queries, like they would build a chunk request directly to the indexer, or if we have the service enabled on the gateway, there can be some gateway service that do matching for the request and the server. So that's the general idea. I'm not sure if I'm going into details too much. But we're trying to make it so that at each exchange of the data, the trust or the risk for that transaction is minimized to that chunk of data being transferred. So there should be verifiability for a chunk and also a payment specific for a chunk. So this is where tabs could come in. CBS, I think all of these things are possible. We're starting off with flat files because this is probably something that would be useful for indexers to start using new chains. If an indexer already serving data for a chain already have like a whole bunch of data sets, there can be some negotiation for an indexer who is looking to launch service in the new chain and then buy the flat files from there. CVS I think is also possible, but the problem there is we can't really easily verify. We can't really easily verify the content of the CVS. I think we are also interested in finding how do people want to price their data set. Like, would they want to price by the bytes being transmitted to others? I'm also interested in what kind of discovery people would like to use. Like, if they would be able to look at all the available files available and then buy something there, or would they be interested in just specifying a block, like a range of blocks they're interested in for a specific chain? And it would be possible to do both. Because we're working on a proof of concept right now, it is direct in their request, like in one of the headers. This is basically the same as the current indexer service for subgraphs, that a client can directly supply a free query token. I think in the future, we definitely want this to be more P2P, and in a way that you can request a chunk or make parallel requests to multiple clients or multiple indexers without really caring about what indexer is serving. Because at the end, the chunk that you receive should be verifiable against the sub file you agree to. I guess this is also an opportunity to see who will be interested to try out this tool first. If you are interested in helping us test the tool, can send me a message and we can talk from there.
Awesome. Yes, please do. It'll be awesome to get some feedback on this. So please do reach out to Hope. Cool. Any other questions on this or World of Data Services in general? I see Derek typing. Also, I just want to go back in the chat because there were some questions that were asked, but I'm not sure if there are any that are left unanswered. If anyone posted a question and your question has been unanswered, please do resurface the question, and then we can try to get that answered for you ASAP. Thanks.
No, Horizon is not currently being treated as a prerequisite. To provide a bit more context, obviously at the moment lots of stuff about the protocol are subgraph specific, but lots of aspects of it are sort of very generalizable. So a deployment could point to anything. It could be a subgraph definition. It could be something else.
Awesome. Any other questions? And any other questions that have been unanswered? I'm curious to see if you missed anything. If so, please do resurface. I see Hope is typing. Which do we have any insights on which will be the first to GTM? Which of what options?
Presumably you mean
right.
data.
Yeah. Oh, data services. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
So I don't think there's specifics on that yet. I think at the moment it's a bit of a race. There are a few horses in the running.
Nice wordplay. We've got what I presume is a question coming from Matthew. Good news, multiple things worked on in parallel. Yes, very true. That wasn't a question, that was a statement. But thank you for the extra comment there. Any more questions on the topic of data services and anything else related? I am not sure. I will probably have to consult the forum or chat to Pablo in relation to that because I don't know what the latest is on that at the moment. Let me get back to you on that, Payne. Unless anyone else has a response for looking at this situation a bit closer. Cool. Yeah, I'll get back to you, Payne. When anyone would bonk sleepy what does it mean to bonk a sleepy delegator? Okay, I have a very visual representation of what it means to bonk a sleepy delegator.
That's, I think, predominantly focused around subgraphs and substreams. Non-deterministic data sources is a feature which we're sort of continuing to iterate on. There have also been some discussions around those kind of data sources on substreams, but I think those are still in discovery phase.
I can't control this, Vince. It's just happening. This is hilarious. Any yeah, concentration skills. Um, any other questions in relation to World of Data Services, and preferably nothing to do with bonking delegators, please. Alrighty, we're coming into the final 10 minutes. So this is the final call for questions, thoughts, responses on anything World of Data Services, but then also just in general, for anything, if there's anything anyone wants to discuss, any questions anyone has, not related to anything specific. The only banned topic is talking about delegators and bonking. Aside from that, any questions, thoughts, and opinions anyone wants to share? I see Carl typing. Alrighty, I see Carl has a few questions about gateways.
I can probably answer that. So the gateway code is not public. There are no IP addresses to allow list. You have to keep your ports open. The gateway does not care if an indexer uses HTTP. You can use it, of course, but it's less secure than HTTPS. Should query load be distributed equally based on allocation share? No, the gateway cares about multiple factors like latency, as you mentioned afterwards, and it does affect your query performance basically. So if your indexers, say if your indexer service runs in Germany and your database is in Finland, then you will suffer from that. Browsers don't really care if you use HTTP. Like you're not supposed to directly connect your indexer to your browser, basically, Vincent. But yes, I do know that the status check fails, and indeed, if you're using HTTP. But we're talking about gateway, so the gateway it's the one that's interfacing with the indexer. So it shouldn't really matter if you're using HTTP or HTTPS. Like the gateway is the middleman here. But I might be wrong. Ah, okay. Sorry. Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, if you can pay the indexer, if you want to pay an indexer for serving you to act as a hosted service, then feel free to do so, but you lose all the benefits of using the network if you are directly paying an indexer to do the job for you. And paying directly querying an indexer is not possible under any circumstance with the public URL that they post on when they register, because without payments that URL won't serve you any data. So even though it's public, it needs payments, and the only one that can pay those queries is the gateway. Yeah, as Adam mentioned. And yes, never expose your graph node query URLs.
That was a nice set of questions after the final call, so I appreciate you sharing them, Carl. Do you have any more? Or I see Adam is typing, maybe with more context. Awesome. It was a pleasure to have you, Adam. Thank you so much for going through everything in relation to a world of data services and answering all the questions folks had. So yeah, appreciate you. Alrighty, I'm going to, yes.
One more question. I was checking it out. I'm relatively new as an operator. Could someone give me like a history lesson on query fees and whether the rise and fall and maybe rise again of them?
So the majority of the queries are still on the hosted service, which will be sunset at the end of this year, and all the traffic will probably will then move on mainnet. So for now, your focus as an indexer should be on the indexer rewards and not on the query fees. But as soon as the traffic is moved to the network, then you should slowly start trying to figure out your way into getting query fees. And it should be more or less easier now with the removal of the 𝗨𝗀𝗳𝗂𝗧 function, because you can now get directly paid instead of like going through a rebate pool that basically earned you almost no GRT always. So yeah, we're in a way better spot now.
Super. What do we expect the load increase to be when the hosted services shut down?
Good question. If you're only serving the current set of subgraphs, then there's no load increase, but it's up to you which subgraphs you want to support and which subgraphs generate the most traffic. Like, we're also gonna get a list of subgraphs to pre-sync. If you check the announcements or the indexer announcements channels in Discord, you will find a link to subscribe to this list whenever is getting posted out in the public. So you can choose which subgraphs to pre-sync based on traffic and size and whatnot. But it's totally up to you which subgraphs you support. You can stick with the current existing subgraphs on the network that you already have synced now, so to speak. So you basically just ignore the rest. It's, again, totally up to you.
And will the Graph Explorer be extended to show traffic load to subgraphs in addition to like other indexing metrics?
Well, I want so many things to be added on the Explorer, but yeah, they didn't happen yet, and I'm not sure when or if ever they're gonna happen, given the amount of extra work that's needed to get that up. For indexers, the Explorer is not the best tool to use. I would stick with tools that are built specifically for queries. There was one that was tracking the balances for wallets and a bunch of other metrics that will give you a sort of ballpark idea of which subgraph is the best to sync for 7 queries, but I don't have the link for that, unfortunately.
One final question. Since there isn't an allow list of IP address ingress from gateways, do people usually run like an Nginx proxy in front of their service? Okay.
Yeah, either Nginx or traffic, both should do just fine.
Cool, thanks.
You're welcome. By the way, are you already operating on the network, by the way?
Yeah, we have a minimum stake indexer running, and we're about to onboard a little bit more.
Okay, nice. That's awesome. Are you running bare metal, Kubernetes, or Docker?
We're running VM in Google, so Docker on top of a hosted instance.
Ooh, rave. That's gonna be quite costly. Are you sure you want to stick with Google at this point? I don't know. I'm just trying to warn you that GCP isn't the best choice.
Yeah, it can be expensive. We'll evaluate that as we go along.
Let me know if you need any help for just ballparks of anything. I can probably help you out with numbers or anything.
Cool, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah. Let's keep in touch. Can you DM me after IOH so we can take the discussion?
Will do.
Awesome.
There you go. IOH is the place where people learn and connect. I love that. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity to end today's call officially. But of course, as always, if folks want to stick around and just hang out, vibe, and just, chit chat, that's always welcome. But I'm going to take this opportunity to officially end and stop the recording. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today for today's IOH edition. And we look forward to seeing you all again next week. Take care, everyone.